Worthington.
Work.
And I've been preaching for, that's 14 years. And you think I wouldn't deserve this standing in front of people, but for some reason this gives a shake, gives me a shake.
So you know we're not gonna take up the election for it.
That's the office plate, Green.
Give some plate, you feel better, don't you?
Never thought about that.
Yeah, give us, I'll help you off. It's a fried chicken, right here.
I didn't say that.
Huh? You know, I know you were thinking.
You guys better hold it, you know, we better.
I want to apologize in advance. I have a couple of embedded videos in this presentation, but the one thing I didn't forget was my speakers. So I don't think you're going to be able to hear them. I will try, but if not, so maybe I can just tell you about it. First, I want to thank the board, Mr. McKiff, Mrs. Lucas, for allowing us to attend the Model Schools Conference once again. High-quality professional development is few and far between. As someone who has been to a lot of meetings and sat through a lot of trainings, good ones are few and far between, and I'm sure most educators will agree with me on that. Sometimes they're a little monotonous, but this is a very high-quality professional development. Mr. Bill Daggett, president, founder of the International Center for Leadership and Education. Of course, he's the main guy that does this, and when it comes to education, Bill Daggett knows his stuff. Bill Daggett, Larry Lazat, any of those guys, you can bank on what they say because it's not a new dog and pony show. It's something that's been around for a very long time, and it's not one of those things that come and go. It's tried and true, and actually our state standards, our standards for high quality schools are built around a lot of the same research and a lot of the same thought that these gentlemen put forward. I do hope that, of course, we've been able to do this through the SIG funds that we've had for the past few years. We've been able to go to various conferences. And as that is coming to an end, I hope that funding can be secured in the future for staff and teachers, administrators to attend such conferences. The one thing I do want to debunk, a lot of people make comments and say, "Oh, look, it's another taxpayer-funded vacation," because this particular conference was at the Walt Disney World Resort. And in the evenings, those evenings are free, but I can guarantee you and assure you that the days that we are there, we attend the conferences that we are to attend. And learn all that we can, because again, we value that. And so, it may appear that way, but the return on investment, I feel, is a great investment. I do also want to say that I'm thankful that I made it through one conference without some sort of medical emergency. With no flu, no anaphylactic reactions, plane didn't crash, so we're good. Want to first start. To say that myself, Mr. Altizer, my music teacher, and Mrs. Decker, my art teacher, attended with me, and appreciate their attendance. Had room for more in the budget, but for some reason they couldn't make it. The first session that I attended was with Dr. Sue Sakowitz. She was the former principal of Brockton High School, which is in Massachusetts, and she is now a senior fellow with the International Center for Leadership and Education. When she first took over the school, Brockton High School had and this is straight from her presentation. She allowed us to use some of her slides. When she first went, Massachusetts had just implemented a high-stakes test, which is their equivalent to our West test. 3/4 of their students would not be earning a diploma due to failure and dropout. Culture of low expectations, one of the former principals made the statement that students have a right to fail. That's really not a good mindset to have in the school system. They were a negative image of their city and in their state. She said, but yet we were living in denial. We still thought that, we're doing what we can. She said, I knew that needed to change. And so, which led her to this question, who's responsible? She said they had silos, my kids, your kids, and it wasn't our kids. And unfortunately, that sometimes does dominate the thought of a school staff. It's well, I teach English or I teach math, so it's the math teacher's fault or it's the English teacher's fault. But we all, and including the board and including the central office administration, including school administration and all teachers, have a responsibility for all of their students. And success was by chance, depending on who your teacher was, whether you were going to be successful or not. And, that's a very unfortunate situation to be in. And so some things began to take place. They began to celebrate success. And that's something that I unfortunately, I need to work on that. I'll admit that. I need to focus more on celebrating the success of my staff and my students. They celebrated everything. And focus, and what that does, it protects your focus. When you begin to focus on positive things happening, okay, you find issues within your school, and you want to focus on that, but also you don't want to have that focus turn into a negative thing. And so she protected the focus of her school. And if you look here at this slide that she used, these were the turnaround steps. They empowered a team, leadership team within the school, focused on literacy for all, implemented a plan with fidelity, and monitored like crazy. And everybody knows what gets monitored and what gets accomplished, right? Leadership and literacy, that was the two key points that she made. And that created a culture of growth within their school. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about being a culture of growth here in just a few minutes. But here was their data. She took over, this is when she took over in 1998. That was their scores. That was their proficiency scores. And then in 2013 when she retired. And so obviously that her plan worked. She made a very big difference. Excuse me. I've got this clicker and it's got too many buttons, so sometimes I find the wrong one. Dr. Daggett himself, he was the next session that I attended. And he talked about being proactive versus reactive, and that's kind of going to be the theme as I talk this evening. When we talk about education, we talk about accountability. Are we proactive or are we reactive? And I'm going to jump down and I'm going to talk a little bit about summative versus formative assessment. Summative assessment is often referred to as the autopsy. Your West test results is a summative assessment. It's summative of what's happened through the year, and that's the autopsy. But the problem is we don't focus enough on the formative assessment, which is ongoing throughout the year, the diagnostic type. We're always talking about making data-driven decisions, and again, this takes place in my school. We've got to make data-driven decisions. Do we drive a curriculum focused on data? The word data is used so much. But we're using autopsy results a lot of the time. We're using results that are after the fact instead of using results that are ongoing throughout the year, which again are more diagnostic and says, okay, this is what you need to change in order to fix this child and the problems that this child may be having. Emerging trends. He talked a lot about emerging trends in our nation, and there we go.
I wasn't prepared to translate that. Because it was to that little T's. That little mark with the A and then the ring around it. At. See, that's what I said. Kay said she thought it was about. Yeah. Oh. But I've never heard it said. I said the mark, but never heard it said. And then it sounded stupid when I said it. Violence at NBC.
I heard it around or about, but once you're missing.
See, there it is. Violence at NBC, GE.com. I mean,
Well, Allison should know.
what is internet?
Internet is the massive computer age, and one that's becoming really big now.
What do you mean? That's big. That's really good. What do you write to it like mail?
Now, a lot of people use it to communicate with, I guess they can communicate with NBC writers and producers. Allison, can you explain what internet is?
Yeah, she can't say anything in 10 seconds or less.
Oh, Allison will be in the studio shortly.
What is it?
So that was just, in some of our eyes, just a few years ago. You remember those shows very well, and people saying, "What is the internet?" And now, anybody that don't know what the internet is, you think, well, they've got to be some indigenous people to a far off country somewhere, And so, technology, digital and technology impact that has taken place in our nation just over the past few years, and in education, it's very great. I want to take just a minute. I'll do that here in just a minute. When we think about problems, all right, problems when I went to school, I graduated in 1997 from Guyan Valley High School. The thought of a portable device that had a camera that you could record things on, thank God we didn't have it then. I probably would have been in a lot of trouble. But that was a foreign concept. You know, CPUs had just came out, personal computers. They were just starting to pick up, and to think that you could have that technology in your hand. You know, and he showed it, and I'm going to try to condense 3 days of information in just a few minutes. I don't want to bore you to death. But he showed a slide that had a picture of people that were listening to the Pope. It was in 2005, and 2 people were holding up a cell phone. And then in 2013, you couldn't see the people for the screens on the cell phones. You know, the impact that that's had. And I know that we're faced with a lot of challenges today that we weren't faced with just a few years ago. And when we look at tools and we look at problems associated with those tools, those are all impacts that you and I are faced with. You know, you as decision makers and policy makers, and myself as an administrator and teachers, these are all things that are having a great impact on the decisions that we make every day. Digital literacy, and this was something that he really drove home. It needs to be integrated throughout the curriculum, not assigned to a specific place. Digital literacy, you know, and I read this, and I can't remember where, but when pencils first came out, this is kind of a funny, but it's true. When they were transitioning from a chalk and a slate board to pencils, the biggest complaint teachers said, absolutely not. Those kids, they'll stab each other with pencils. They'll throw them. They'll get hurt. They'll put their eyes out. We cannot go to such dangerous things in the classroom. But you know what? Somebody said, well, we need to teach them the appropriate way to use them. And that's something that we're faced with right now. You know, regardless of whether we think, you know, we can put all the laws and rules in place and say, you know, don't have your cell phones, but guess what? They're still going to have their cell phones. And they're still going to record things that they shouldn't record. So we've got a responsibility to teach them, okay, again, this is being proactive, teaching them the appropriate use of technology as opposed to them sneaking and, I guess, trying to use it inappropriately. Access. We are very fortunate in this county and I'm going to pay kudos, so we give him a hard time, and Jeff does this as well, but Danny Daly, our technology director, he's worked really hard. We are right up there on the top as far as the access and the tools that we have. You know, that's a base that I think the Lincoln County Schools has covered very well. Gaming. Again, this is more the digital technology impact. More and more institutions, the military, leaning more towards gaming as training. You know, we see in that Scholastic, big names, big hitters in education are using gaming. Why? Because it's the way that kids now think. You know, they are technology natives. You and I, we are either technology immigrants or maybe even ancestors to technology. But these kids were born into a tech age, and it's the way their brains work. You know, in my day, it was don't play so many video games that'll rot your brain out. Now, you know, in today's time, it's play video games that will help you learn. College and career ready. This is another emerging trend, talking about being proactive and reactive. A few slides for food for thought. Freshmen need remediation. In a 2-year college, 51.7%. 4-year college, 19.9%. This is remediation in math and language arts when they enter college. College retention rate, 2013 from first year to second year. 2-year colleges, 55.5%. 4-year colleges, 65.2%. So after that first year, 40 to 50%, 35 to 45% people are leaving. 13 million Americans are unemployed. 33.8 million jobs in the U.S. still remain unfilled. Workplace needs workers that can solve unstructured problems, work with new information, and do non-routine manual tasks. And again, I'm going to point to a little bit more of that here in just a moment. These are things that we're faced with, all right?
Hello. Welcome to Energy Conservation Incorporated.
Thank you. I really hope to get a job here.
Well, let's get started with your interview. What do you think are your greatest strengths?
My greatest strengths.
Yes, your greatest strengths.
What are my answer choices?
What do you mean?
My answer choices. You know, A, B, C, or D.
There are not any answer choices.
Oh, I understand. In that case, I choose C.
You choose C.
Yes, I choose C. My fifth grade teacher told me to always choose C when I did not know the answer.
Oh, it sounds like your fifth grade teacher really prepared you for your future.
And the problem is, we don't focus on application. That's a prime example of us not focusing on application. It's all about, make the right answer choice so our test scores look good. In the DACA system for effective instruction, he talks about quadrant D. Sorry, the color's not real good, the color scheme here is not real good. But your four quadrants. A is you have acquisition. The acquisition of knowledge is the initial gain of knowledge. B is a step above that. That's more of a synthesis or a breaking down of that information. C, you have a little bit more. You have more than acquisition. You have some application, but it's application to structured problems. D is a quadrant of teaching in which you're teaching kids to take that information and apply it to unpredictable real-world situations. Okay, and that's exactly what we need to do. It's very easy to teach kids information, but to teach them how to use that information, again, going back to that previous slide where we had four, to teach them to apply that information to unstructured, non-routine, real-world problems. That's how we get kids career ready. We're college and career ready, and they have to have these skills. And we're transitioning to a whole new line of thought with next generation standards and the word Common Core and opinions on it. They're out there. There's a lot of them. We all have our own personal opinions. But the fact is, it's here, and we're required to teach it. And it is. It's a very different line of thought. Under the rigor relevance framework, this is a little example of what quadrant D activities may entail. Obtain historical data about local weather to predict the chance of snow, rain, or sun during the year. So we're asking students to make predictions. We're asking them to test consumer products and illustrate data graphically, to create. We're asking them to predict, to create new information. Plan a large school event and calculate resources, all the things that you need to organize and hold this event. Make a scale drawing of the classroom on grid paper, each group using a different scale. We're transitioning to a whole new line of thought. It's no longer how do you do this or how do you get the answer. It's take this problem, take this process that you're using and apply it to the real world. Again, from intervention to prevention, that's got to be our focus. We've talked about intervention for so long, and currently due to a multitude of circumstances, there are kids that still need intervention, but we also have to move to a thought of prevention. Again, that's using formative assessment more so than we use our summative assessment. Not saying the summative assessment is bad. We need it. We need those results. We need to see what our successes were, but we don't always need to use it to make our decisions. And then personal skills, something that's really not lacking. And these are the guiding principles that were shared at the Model Schools Conference: responsibility, contemplation, initiative, perseverance. All these are things that are unfortunately, seemingly disappearing from our society. And instilling these principles in the students' lives as guiding principles in the decisions that they make is extremely important. If you have any questions, let's go. Sometimes I forget to stop and ask for questions. Dr. David Valkerman, he is a professor at Harvard in their education graduate program. Talked about a growth culture. If you remember, I said I would talk more about that later on. And how to embed a growth culture, how to embed. Sometimes the expectation, there's a perceived expectation that we need to go from 0 to 90 within just a very short amount of time. But in order to help kids become successful, we have to make a culture that is focused around growth and progress. Making progress always helps the human mind. And he used this example, and it's very true. He said he commutes into Boston sometimes for work, And if he takes Interstate 2, he said, it takes me a really long time. He said, it's the shortest way, but it takes me a very long time because I'm usually sitting stuck in traffic. He said, I can take back roads, and it doesn't get me there any faster, but I'm constantly moving. He said, and I feel like I'm making more progress. And that makes a whole lot of sense. Our students are faced with that every day. Some of them feel like they're stuck, they're sitting in traffic, because we don't allow them to take those alternate routes that they need to take. And I really like that. So 4 beliefs that underlie performance. I belong. Students have to have a sense. Staff has to have a sense. Directors have to have a sense. We all have to have a sense that we belong in the academic community. And I'm afraid that so many people are disconnected with that. Businesses, parents. You know, I've had a lot of parents tell me, well, I just don't understand what my kids are learning. I'm so disconnected from that. I have no place. And I encourage them and tell them that everybody in our communities, all people in our communities have a place in our academic institutions. My ability and competences grow with my effort. Again, another belief that I can become stronger when I put forth effort. I can be more successful when I put forth effort. The fact that I can succeed. I can statements. You know, a lot of teachers have gone to away from the old objectives and even kind of adapted their essential questions into I can statements. Instead of saying the student will be able to, have it written as the student saying I can do this or I can do that. And finally, value. This work has value for me. And this is something that all educators from a long time ago until now have faced. Mr. Midkiff is a former math teacher. What was the #1 question that you heard from your students? Would it be, where am I going to use this? How am I ever going to use this algebra in life, right? So students have to realize that the work has value. Short term, it's interesting. They have to be interested in it. Long term, it takes me forward, moves me forward, it helps me to be successful. We have a job as educators, we have a job as a community, we have a job as parents to help students find value in the work that they're doing. Choice fuels value. It does not work to tell students that it's important for them. You can't just tell them it's important. They have to know that it's important. They have to believe that it's important. And here's just a couple of more tokens from him. We persevere when we believe we can succeed, but we need evidence. Students have to have evidence. We have to give them feedback. We have to give them encouragement. We have to let them know that they're making progress. If they're not making progress, we have to help them formulate a plan on how to make that progress. And then shaky confidence plus early failure equals a total shutdown. You know, that's very true. We see a lot of kids that shut down. They feel like they can't. But in order to have a growth culture within our schools and within our district, these are the things that we have to implement, things that we have to focus on. And again, back to Bill Daggett. I went to every session that he offered. I like listening to the guy. He had a special session for West Virginia educators, and I want to share this one with you before I talk about this. He said, and I believe Mr. Midkiff may have heard the very same speech at the superintendent's conference. He made the statement. He said, West Virginia has never seen an initiative that it doesn't like. He said, and even worse with that, the bigger problem with that is they don't want to get rid of the old stuff. They take on all this new stuff, and they don't want to get rid of the old stuff. So schools and school districts are faced with so many initiatives and so many requirements, and we can't shove anything off the plate. Oh, no, we need to keep this and we need to keep that. At the same time, adding all this. He said, and it really puts a whole lot of stress on your school system. You know, and he made the statement, and take this for what it's worth. I didn't make the statement. He said, sometimes you just have to speak up and say, no, we are not going to do that. He said, sometimes you may have to face some consequences with that, but take the initiative to reject the initiatives. Again, that's in the words of Bill Daggett, not Jonah Atkins. This particular session was entitled Creating a Culture to Support the Transition. We're here. School improvement. Schools are improving, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a second. But the problem is we need to be here. Okay? The rate of change between school improvement and the changing world is changing much faster than we are. Not that we're not improving, we're just not improving fast enough. Okay? And here's where we need to be. Culture trumps strategy. Talking about creating that culture, that growth mindset. Working on this transition into a new line of thinking. This is a top-down initiative. It starts with the Board of Education, down to the administrative staff, faculty and staff, parents, community, students. Again, this is a thought process. and building that culture that, you know what, we can succeed at this, we will succeed at that. It requires a combined effort on all of our parts. We've got to frame the message first that schools are not failing. So many times, schools are put in the limelight of being failures. When you constantly, and I've told parents this, when parents say, you know what, that school is constantly failing, they're not doing what's right for my kid. There are times I understand that things don't go right, and parents disagree with the decisions that we make, and that's perfectly fine. But when the message is constantly put out there that the school is failing, guess what? It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. The school will fail. If that's the image, then that's sometimes there's a statement that I'm looking for here. Perception becomes reality. That's what I'm trying to think of. Perception becomes reality. Schools are not failing. Remember, school improvement. These are statistics from nationwide testing, assessment results. School improvement has been on the increase. Okay, but again, that rate of change with the changing world, they're just not keeping up. We have to broadcast that message. You know, schools are being successful. There are areas that we need work in, absolutely. But overall, we are succeeding. The larger context of society. You've got to think about this transition in the larger context of society. One of the things that Bill Daggett hit on a lot was the web. The first web version of the internet, all right, was informational, Web 1.0. Web 2.0 was relational, all right? And so relational is social media, things, you know, that's where we're at right now. We're in a relational internet state, okay? A lot of social media. You have Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all these things, right? And so the next web is anticipatory. And this is an evolution, I guess, of the internet that we're now moving into an anticipatory web where you can search. All right, you can search for certain things. Here's an example, and we're already seeing this. Let's say that Carol's decided to look at a new pair of shoes on Amazon. All right, so she looks at that pair of shoes, and the next time she clicks on a website, she will notice a list of ads over here that are very similar to the things that she's been searching for. That's where we're getting to, you know, and these are the things that are changing. The internet is changing, the world is changing. And if our students are going to be successful in this world, as much as we may disagree with it, we've got to find a way to help them to integrate. Make it personal. Here's the tricky part, making it personal.
Donnie, just remember, anxiety about change is really just a fear of losing control.
But Dr. Vaughn, that's just it. I have no control. None. Not an ounce of it. I've been in elementary education for 23 years, and I've seen open classrooms and back to basics, whole language, hooked on phonics, higher standards, no standards. You do your thing, but don't do that thing. Assertive discipline, no discipline, student-based education, outcome-based education, mastery learning, master teachers, merit training, mentoring programs, peer coaching. I've done it all.
And you know, that's the way the teachers feel. That's the way that the school staff feels. You know, I've done it all. I've been there. It's cookie cutter. You know, I could go on and on and on with examples. We have to make it personal for all stakeholders. All stakeholders. Students first and foremost. We have to make learning and education personal for them. But everybody has to have a personal connection with what we're doing, with the transition that we're making. And then there are the human and economic consequences. I like this. And this is what you feel like. When you're an agent for change and you're trying to bring about a different mindset, a different way of thinking, you're the cat, right? And everybody else around you are all those dogs. And it is scary. It's scary. Change sometimes is very scary. But if we can put the right pieces of the puzzle into place, again, this is something that can be very easy. I'm not going to say easy, but much more realistic to achieve. 70%, I'm almost finished. 70% not eligible for the military because they meet one of the following criteria. These are things that kill us in our nation right now. Lack of a high school diploma, cannot pass a basic literacy test, obesity, drugs, incarceration. 70%. The statistics show, again, I'm just passing on information that I've received, 70% are headed to public assistance. That's not sustainable. We all know that. It's not sustainable that happens. We've got to find a way to make it work. Again, this is the model that Bill Daggett uses. I've been implementing some of these things in Gowan Valley for the past couple of years, trying to implement more each year that goes on. We've got to find a way to fix the problems in the world in which we live. And personally, I'm going to speak personally here just for a second. I believe there's two major agents for change in our world: schools and churches. Both of those have a huge impact in changing our society and changing our culture. And it's a big task, but I think that all of us working together can definitely accomplish that task. So, any questions? Anybody confused?
Yeah, well, those percentages that you had up there, that's
Nationwide.
nationwide.
Nationwide. It's very scary.
You said that this is the last year of your SIG grant, correct?
Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said that's unfortunate because you're not able to typically attend things like this.
Right. And that's why I say, there's a lot of professional development out there, and I'm not saying that everything's bad in comparison to this, but I do know that this is good.
Now, how are you going to handle this from this point? As far as you said, what, 2 other staff members went with you?
Yes, those staff members will share out. We have a retreat coming up, and those staff members are going to be sharing their information with the rest of my staff during that retreat. Of course, I'll share what I have. Actually, one whole day of my retreat is going to be dedicated to formative assessment. That's something that I feel that is going to be has to be a major focus for us this year. 2 reasons. One, because again, going back to what I said, if we constantly use summative assessment results, we're just basing our decisions on an autopsy. If we use formative assessment, we're making diagnostic decisions throughout the year. 2, who knows if we're going to have any summative assessment results to look at this year, right? So,
Good question.
yeah.
So they'll be sharing it. Of course, obviously your primary goal here is student learning and achievement.
Absolutely.
Realizing that that's going to be our focus this year, as it always is, but we're going to focus even more so on that this year. And you'll see as we go to LSIC meetings, we're going to really have some more involvement in some of the things you're doing and seek some questions and answers about some things that you are doing. So it's helpful that you are doing these things that can help towards the goal that we're all after here. So it's a good thing to have.
Accountability makes us uncomfortable, but it's necessary, and I'm willing to take on that uncomfortable zone, I guess, if that's what will help my school.
Well, if you're prepared and try to get prepared as a staff, then you can answer those kind of questions. Anybody else have anything about this?
I thought it was very good.
Appreciate it.
Glad
You
you
did
got
a nice
to go.
job with the presentation. I've heard Dr. Daggett speak several times, and if I close my eyes and listen to you just a moment ago, you sound just like him. And I'm pleased to hear that you're so excited about what you've learned, and you're going to bring that back to your staff.
Absolutely. It's good stuff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Joe Linville. I'm glad you're here this evening, Judge.
Well, thank you. Glad you all let me come in again. It's about the dental optical. So I would like the board's permission to ask you the first question.
Sure.
Remember the last time I was before you, I attended the meeting before the...
Yes, I do.
Do you remember that?
It's vivid in my mind.
Okay. I'm back again. What we're speaking of is, I had a harassment, well, some of you know, I had a board member harass me.
At the
And it
post
happened to
office.
be more than the post office. But, and I come to the board about it, and I just called his hand on it. But what you didn't know, well, now what was over was 1 year he didn't get his Girl Scout mint cookies. He didn't get them. Well, I'll tell you just a minute.
I'm waiting.
Okay. But then But the next time that the Girl Scout cookies come in, they were selling them, I got him 2 boxes. One for the year that I missed, and one for the year was the year after that. But what he didn't know, one of his former students ate his mint Girl Scout cookies. Do you know who that was?
Had to be one of your daughters.
Cindy. So, that's what.
But you were in charge of them, Joe.
But she ate them, and she was your student.
We're Johnny when you need him.
Okay. No, well, most of Mr. Baker, I know all these other people. Rod, you're the second, I must know your father. So,
I'm sure you knew that.
Yes, okay. But I just have some questions on the dental office program that you all gave the retired employees. Well, the 16th of November, that was when the election was passed. I didn't even know that there was a dental plan in that, so to speak, or anything concerned. And then May the 9th, I got a packet that was telling me what was in it, or how it would be. That's when I sort of set an litmus test, and I have 2 of them. Well, there's a friend of mine who uses the same thing. If we don't think it's maybe right, or it's sort of right but not wrong. One of them is, there's no right way to do the wrong thing. And it's not who's right, but what's right. So that's sort of how I based it, and this plan sort of didn't pass neither one of my litmus tests. But no big deal. But my questions are that I've had 34 years experience. The board, my pension is about, well, it likes $1.25 being $40. Well, I have 34 and somebody else have 17, and they want to take my retirement check and give somebody the same thing with 17 years experience, which that's dollars and cents. Then if your wife is an employee of the Board of Education, then they're going to take your pension and give you the insurance. It takes both of ours for just one in the other individual who wife might not have been on the board, but he can put his wife on it. But it takes 2 of people that work for the Board of Education and just one for the others. Now, why is that? I mean, who made the rules, or?
After you finish, Joe, I'll try to respond to those.
Okay. But, so I just look at, maybe there's a, bring it back on the table sometime and do something else, or if there's alternatives, or some way you could help. There might not be just a few of us who have, the double, that take both pensions. I just, if there's options, I don't know who made the rules or who made the regulations that this is the way it come by, that this is how we're going to do it. I just don't think it just appears to me that there's, you're rewarding some and punishing others. Now, do you all care to respond to that?
Yeah, I'll be glad to. Let me just kind of summarize kind of what Joe's talking about, because some people may not even realize. I mean, we know Joe, and a lot of people, but some don't. Back, as you know, we're one of the few counties that have a county pension for our employees, but we fund that out of our school levy. This past year, our treasurer, Ms. Gandy, approached the board when we were preparing our levy call, what we're going to put in it for this next 5 years, of putting in there where the pensioners, like us, can also have the option, or could have the option, instead of getting that pension check each month, that instead of that, we could get dental and optical insurance. But it was an option, you know, if we wanted to keep getting our check, we could, or we could go with the dental optical. Now, that's what was in the levy call, and I don't know the precise amount of money, but there's so much money attached to that, and in a minute, Ms. Gandy will probably tell us what it was, but I'm gonna make up, maybe it was $40,000 a year that the board would spend towards those things. Okay, so, and we're bound to spend that much money and all that. Okay, so that's what the board's involvement was. We placed that on the ballot. The voters of the county, luckily and hopefully, gratefully on our behalf, they passed that. So then it came down to the retirees. Each retiree then had a decision to make, and that's that packet I think you were talking about, Jody, that made, as did I and many others. And then we had a decision to make. Of course, it doesn't really affect us as board members because that's, we're technically school employees, so dental optical for all of our school employees is given. So it doesn't directly affect us today, but it might in a year or two. But what Mr. Limble was saying is that when this was done, it's not stated in the levy call how that would be done. All it said that people would have the option to do it. So at that point, the board really didn't have, make a decision as to how to be implemented. It was implemented the way many things are done administratively. You know, we have staff to do those things. In our levy call, we give money for student trips, but we don't sit here and say how that money is going to be divvied up or used by a school, or maybe school supplies and all. You know, we don't, all we say is in the levy call, we help develop the levy call that says this much money must be spent. But administratively, those administrators over those different departments then decide how it's going to be implemented. Okay, so that's kind of where we are. That's why a lot of people don't even realize how this program works. And of course, you know, Mr. Wilkerson and I do because, you know, we're retirees and involved in this kind of things, but others oftentimes don't. But what Joe was saying here is that, and I'm going to use an easy figure, Joe,
Okay.
An even number. Let's say that his pension is $30 a month. And these vary depending on the number of years you work. You get about $1.25 more than I do a month. So, but there are some people that maybe haven't worked as many years, worked in other capacities. They may not get it, maybe $20 a month. So it varies. But the way this was set up was the option is instead of getting that check, if I'm a single person with no dependents, no spouse, no significant other, I can take my $20. I'm going to say we all get that. I can take my $20 and say I don't want that check. I want to get dental optical insurance. So I get that, and fine. But the way it was established was in a situation if you had two people who were employees of the Board of Education, you would have to give your $20, and Amy would have to give her $20, so you were going to pay $40 for that coverage. Then we have the situation where there's a family where the employee worked for the board, has a spouse that did not work for the board. So that person gets their $20, they give up their $20, and they and their spouse get coverage. So what Joe is saying here is that it's not fair, I guess be a word I would say, is that he and his wife have to give up both their checks when this person here who worked for the board and doesn't have a spouse is only giving up their check. So you're paying $40 a month, and Mr. Baker here is paying $20 for he and his spouse, and that's kind of what he's saying. The others, you know, there's a lot of things aren't really totally fair because if you take the person that doesn't have a spouse at all, you know, they're really paying every bit of theirs. They're paying $20. If you were to just put up your $20, you and Amy are paying $10 a month. So yeah, there's no totally fair way. But to get back to your question, eventually it was decided administratively, and we're going to let Birdie kind of explain it to us in a minute. The other day I spoke to her and I asked her to, you know, kind of be aware of some questions that I was going to ask her. One, because primary in her mind, I hope, is that we are going to spend the amount of money that's called for in the levy call for pensions and or insurance, but we're not hopefully going to spend more than that. So that may have been part of her thinking of setting this up in order to stay within that budget. You know, it had to be done the way it was implemented by her office. At the same time, I asked her if we were to provided equally for everyone? In other words, in your situation, you give up your check, Amy doesn't, but both of you get covered. Would that cost the Board of Education any more money? And that's, I think, the thing that many of us would like to know. Or can we do it within the confines of the budget that was established in that levy call, what has to be spent? Or if we do it the way that seems the fairest, would it cost us more than the levy call? And does that pretty much explain what we're saying?
Yeah, I understand it, but I would, like, what bothers me is taking both of them.
Well, I know, that's what I'm
I
saying.
mean, we'll give up one.
Right, I understand that,
So-
and it's an option you have. So now I'm gonna ask Birdie to explain, why it was set up the way it was, and then we'll go from there. Ms. Candy?
All right, well, first of all, in our levy call, we allocated out $185,000 for retirees. And in that levy, when we did the levy call, we said, we're going to give you an option. It's not mandatory, a lot of people have requested it. We want to provide you guys an option to give up your check or keep your check, because we don't want to make anybody do anything they don't want to do. And again, it's to provide a benefit, okay? So I went back and looked to see what our numbers were. So we have about 405 people who are retirees right now. So 306 of those people they want to keep their checks. They don't want dental and vision. They want to keep the checks. So then 95 of those people are going to pick up dental and vision. Okay? So when I ran the numbers, it's going to cost, if those people stay the same, it's going to cost $134,000 for a full year to give everybody their checks. And that's going to leave me $50,000 to cover the dental vision plans. Now, if I just do an average per employee, not counting spouses or anything, that's going to give me $531 average to cover dental vision plans, which is probably a little short. But what happens is the first couple of years will get hit a little harder, and then it will level off. Because everybody, when you get something new, everybody's going to go want to have some stuff done. But in this 5-year period, it's going to level off, and expenditures won't be that much. But here's the one thing that I do, and I do this with our active employees dental and vision. I have a certain amount set aside for the levy call. And as we use that number will go up or down, but I always have some reserve for the high years and the low years. That, we can account for every penny that was allocated by that levy into that levy call. And, like when I get ready to close books here in another month or so, it will say exactly how much is still allocated for that levy call. So there will always be $185,000 allocated. As these bills start coming in, we can get some averages and get better numbers. But, so the reason that we need to do both people, well, let me say why we're allowing spouses to be picked up first. As Mr. Priestley said, a single person has to give up their check at maybe $40. They're going to get a single plan, okay? A married person, such as myself, I'm going to give up $40. I'm going to get a family plan. Well, let me go back and explain. So that single person is going to have one expenditure associated with that policy. Okay, with myself, I'm going to have 2 expenditures associated with my policy, myself and my husband. Okay, Mr. Linville is going to give up 2 checks. He's going to have 2 expenditures associated with that plan. Plus, if they were allowed to keep one of those checks, then you've got another expenditure out here coming in on us that we are not accounting for, because we want that all to go away. And we just, you do one or the other. You're going to pick up the dental vision plan. We're going to cover both of you. Okay? You're going to give up both checks so that we're not getting double hit on expenditures. And that's how, when we did all this, all these employees were going to give up their checks if they chose, so that we're not getting, it's kind of like you're getting double dipping. You're getting 2 benefits. Now, does that make a little bit of sense?
So far.
But and again, this is a benefit that we wanted to provide to our employees. And you guys don't know the hours that I put into making this happen. It's been a long process, and we've worked on it for several years. So it's a very long process. We've done a lot of things to it. Now, if someone's not happy with the plan, good example. Joe wants dental vision, Amy doesn't. Joe gets a single plan, Amy keeps her check. Okay, we have employees that are doing that. They don't, it's like one maybe have false teeth or whatever. They don't wanna give up their check, so they pick up a single plan, okay? Now, if you don't like any of the scenarios, we still can go to the Mountaineer Flexible Benefits. Everybody still has that option. You get Mountaineer Flex, you get dental and vision service plan, but I believe it's gonna cost more than giving up 2 checks. So it is not fair, it's not meant to be fair, it's just meant to provide a service to our people for all their years of dedication. It can't be fair, it just can't be fair.
My question would be, if we permitted someone like Mr. and Mrs. Linville to only give up 1 check, keep a check, and then just devote 1 check towards coverage for both of them, similar to a person that doesn't have a spouse who works for the board, would, and if so, how much would it exceed the amount allocated for the levy for each year?
I wouldn't know that, Steve, but what, an average retiree gets $439. So.
For the year?
Yeah, so we know that we're gonna cover both of those people on the dental vision plan, plus we got this $439 check coming out of our budget also. And that's what I'm saying, we get double hit on that if they're both employees. You get hit by providing the dental and vision, okay, and then we get hit again when we write them that monthly check if one of them gets to keep their check.
Right, I understand it. The 95 people have opted to do this.
Yes.
But I obviously, all 95 don't have spouses.
Right, that's just, and I didn't have time to get all that together, I just know 95 people have gathered up the checks.
Right. But, I mean, I'd heard this before. I mean, I can't argue that
Right,
it's
yeah,
not
I
fair
know.
because I can see where it would be unfair. It's a good plan. I think compared to the Mountaineer Flex plan, it's cheaper if you went out or even if you gave up both
Yeah,
checks,
give
it's
up
cheaper
both, it's
than
still
the other.
cheaper.
But, what I would like to know, and it may not even be until we even do it a year or something, if it would be more than what the levy provides for, how much more? So that the board could then consider if it's something reasonable, that we might consider supplementing and paying the difference. But it would obviously depend on how much it was. But I'm just speaking for myself here. But that's really what it comes down to. I mean, I think you agree, we all agree that it's not fair, and there's no way to make it fair.
There's no way to make it fair. The only way you can make it fair is if everybody gets a single plan. Then it's fair. Everybody
And
gets
then
a
their
single
spouse
plan.
doesn't.
And
right?
then what happens then, their spouse doesn't have access to get dental vision. Because, again, my example, I retire. The only way my husband can get dental vision is if I go to Mountaineer Flex and get a, husband-wife plan, okay? If I no longer need a plan because I'm getting it free through the board, then how does he get a dental vision plan? You can't pick it up on,
Because he wasn't a
Right, he's not an
employee
employee, so
of
he,
the state.
so that's kind of the reason that we went ahead and tried to provide for the spouses, or, all the spouses are gonna be left out in the cold.
Right.
What is the cost per year for a single dental vision plan?
Well, we're on, our active employees, Rod, are on a reimbursable plan. Okay, so we pay an administrative fee, and as those claims come in, we pay those claims. So our active employees are about, I have $277,000 budgeted for active employees. And actually, I just sent an email to Delta, and they didn't get back on me, but I wanted to be able to provide you guys with what's an average cost per person. Okay, but they didn't get back to me. I was a little late getting the email to them, so they didn't get back to me on time. As soon as I get that, then I can say, okay, based on past data, here's what an average person is gonna cost us.
How many employees would be in Mr. Linville and Amy?
Gosh, I don't know, Freda.
Well, they wouldn't be that many, would
Gosh, you gotta get back.
I can think of about 5 myself.
Years and
So
years.
there's-
Yeah, there's several. I mean, I could get that for you guys. if you
Well,
want.
there's 3 of us right
We
here.
have to get that before we know how much it's gonna cost.
My thought is this, through my private employer, my dental is over $100 a month, out of pocket to me, just dental, no vision. I understand the inherent unfairness of both of you having to give up a check to pay for the same benefit, or actually less benefit than a person who only have one family member that works in the school system. Again, I understand the inherent unfairness, but again, the benefit from this has to be, I mean, I'm thinking even with the volume discounts you get for the number of employees, it has to cost us $150, $200 a person per month for this, probably. At least $100
Yeah,
per month.
we'll use every bit of this money. We'll use every bit of it.
So, I mean,
And again, it's a great benefit. It's not fair, but it is a great benefit and it's optional. And it's just something that we wanted to provide to our employees. And other than going single plans for everybody, even if you go single plans, we're still back to, well, I'm giving up 20, I'm giving up 40. So it is never, ever, ever going to be a fair plan. And it's not designed to be a fair plan. It's designed to be an option. If you feel that it's worth giving up your check, you do it. If you don't feel like it is, don't. And then you go out to Mountaineer Flex and pick up your plan. So it's never going to be fair.
Right.
Well, I sort of.
Yeah, it's just not going to be fair.
I mean, we've had examples of individuals who went through Mountaineer Flex that paid
$90
$93.50 was
Yeah.
one person here.
Well, that's the point.
And our plan, you know, they were able to get it for, if both of them were there, would be about less than $80.
Yeah.
But, so it's, our plan that we have is, you know, it's a good plan. It's better probably than the one they have at the state level.
Oh, it's a great.
But,
that's fine.
but maybe, and let me ask you, a person can, if Joe and Amy were to decide they wanted to enroll this next month, they could do this?
Absolutely, yes.
So they could always do it? Okay.
And then if they're not happy with it, you know,
They
they
can
decide.
drop out of it.
Yeah, then it's like, we don't think we're getting our money's worth, we'd rather have our checks. You know, all they gotta do is notify us and we will, start their checks back up.
Okay.
So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as we possibly can and accommodate as many issues that we can. You know, there's always that dollar that we have to keep up with.
Going back to what Fred said here, could you,
I can't.
at some point, I mean, that's the reason I wanted to clarify that, you know, a person could enroll or disenroll, for such a word, whenever they wanted to. Give us an idea of what it would cost should people in that situation be given that option of just one spouse paying and the other not having to. Just, if we could have a feel for what that figure is, because it might not be feasible, but it may be, but kind of what Fred said, you have to go through and see how many spouses you had that were in that situation and kind of calculate. If you could do that and come back to us here sometime in the future and share that with us, then I think that would be, you know, something we really need to know. You know, whether or not we could supplement it if need be, or if it could just, you know, so
Or
unrealistic
maybe
it
even
wouldn't
after
be
the,
possible.
after the first year, once we look at some real numbers, you know, maybe look at, maybe make them change next year, once we get through a year with it.
Well, we just need for you, in, you know, the next month or so, if you could just give us some figures here so we could have something to base it on. And then it would be easier for us to explain something like this to Mr. Limble, that, you know, we understand what you're coming, but it's inherently not equal. But at the same time, if it comes out that, you know, wouldn't be that great additional cost above the levy, that the board might consider supplementing. But all depend on how much it is, Jim. But we sure understand what your argument.
Yeah, we do.
With your permission, you had a little issue with the rock. I've got down here rock. Alta Middle School. I drove by there and saw two young ladies. They were just finishing up with God Bless America. And they had the paintbrushes from the bucket and were going. 2 days later, I was smiling on my face. And 2 days later, I come back by and wasn't on there. Well, I sort of frowned, so to speak. But neither here nor there. I would, with your permission, I'd like to read you something that I have.
Is it regarding that?
Well,
The reason I say this is it's not.
no,
on the
not
agenda.
regarding that. It's
Okay,
just something
that's
that I
fine.
picked up years ago up in the Amish country.
Go ahead.
Okay. But it's a poem. It says when, the title of the poem is When God Could Go to School. It says, when God could go to school, students were taught the golden rule. Teachers were considered heads of class, working hard to help their make students pass. Fear had no place in students' lives. There were no drugs, no guns, no knives. Then along came those who were heard to say, school is not a place for worship, no place to pray. They fought the battle until they won. No place in school for God or His Son. A rapid change was about to begin. A violent and hatred quickly moved in. No longer did the school provide a safe domain, but attending class became a pain. Teachers steadily lost control of their class as soon as discipline became a thing of the past. For now played a major role in the students' lives. They were forced to deal with drugs, guns, and knives. How can we solve the problem and set aside anxiety before it destroys the great American society? Two simple ideas authorities could enforce to set out schools back to a better course. Give teachers control with a new set of rules, and invite God back into the school.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you all.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see. We've got Mr. Neville. Russ Atkins with the Band Boosters. Russ.
That would be me.
Oh, we know you.
You know me. I'm back again. Ran into the post office and I said, "You were due thanks." That's why I'm here.
Could you add a little bit more to it, though?
Well, yeah, we talked for a little bit. My name's Russell Atkins. I'm with the Lincoln County High School Marching Band and Band Boosters. We wanted to formally thank you for the field that is, behind the school now. It's what we asked for. It's not quite finished, and we need to get that done. We've been offered use of school equipment and fuel to finish grading the field. In its current condition, it's not usable. It was being graded, and I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, boom, the bulldozer was gone. I don't know whether they ran out of time or exactly what happened. But the important thing is the field's there. Like I said, it's not quite finished. But we've been offered by Dana Snyder use of school equipment to finish the grading as best we can. We'll still have to find a way to seed the field. And even at that point, there will still be needed some finished grade work on the lower end of it, because it's a lot lower and water tends to settle in that part of the field. It's beyond our ability to provide equipment and funding and facilities to finish this field as it needs to be done. We're here basically to bring you up to snuff. I know you may be familiar with it, you may have seen it, you may not have. Take a trip out back of the school and look at it. They graded that field the same time they did what was going to be the football practice field. That's not usable as it is either. Both fields need drug, if you understand what I'm saying by that. It needs smoothed out and seeded. If it's left as it is, no one will be able to use it for anything because it'll be too rough. So I was talking to Mr. Snyder today, and we think that we can locate someone to drive the school, I don't want to call it the high school's tractor, but if we can't find someone within the school board to help us out with this, we are worried that we might run into problems with legal issues with private people doing work on school board ground. I don't know how that works.
Let me just interject. we'll say this.
Okay.
We intend to have the band practice field completed this fall, by this fall.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we have an expert that's going to talk here in just a minute, Dana Smith back there, he's our maintenance director.
Okay.
And he's going to share some of the things that have to be done.
Cool.
But we have, our goal is to have that finished this year, this fall. We don't think we can use it this fall because,
Oh, no.
Obviously, we're going to have it hydro-seeded, and that needs to be able to set and all. Then next spring, we'll have a great place. So Dana, why don't you keep us, what do we need to do now, Dana?
Well, as Russ said, we need to drag the field. And
Now, as you do this, would you tell us, do we have plans as to somebody to do those type, everything that you're mentioning? Do we
my
have-
mother taught me as a teenager, and before you could give direction, you had to be able to take it. So I'm here to get direction from the board on what you want me to do, and I'll get her done.
Tricky question.
Yeah, so there are some things left to do, rocks to get off the field, ditches to finish up. Most of the ditches are in place. They need to be dressed up and finished. A lot of the water that's standing on the field is coming from that hillside, and just don't have any place to go because the ditches are. Looking at 2 or 3 days to get the grading and the ditches done probably, and drag the field. And of course, if the band, to get everybody together and pick up rocks, that'd be a
We
big
can
deal
do
just
that.
to do that, just to get the rocks picked
We
up before it's hot.
We can get that done.
Now, what about a drain? Do we still need to install a drain at the other end?
Well, we need at least a ditch. Well, you wouldn't have to use pipe. You could just have a gravity sloped ditch to get the water off that corner of the field that he's talking about. You could run the water both directions. We've got drain pipe in place that we can run part of the water to the drain pipe, and we can run part of it to a drain pipe on the other side. Just a couple days' work with the tractor would probably do it.
Now, I have a question. In the middle of the field, there's the black piping that is, there's an open ditch that runs from the dam down to the black pipe that runs under the field.
Yes.
Are you all talking about putting more pipe in that and filling it over? Because that's a really bad place for a ditch.
Bad place for what?
That's a really bad place for a ditch. If you've been, I'm sure you've been down there.
Oh, yeah. I've seen
But I didn't know it was there until I walked out there. I couldn't see it from the road. So we walked out there and looked at it, and I was like,
It's an 18-inch pipe.
wow, where did that come from?
Had that not been put in, you'd really have some water
Yeah, well,
problems.
my biggest concern was from where that pipe takes off up to the dam is an open ditch.
Right.
Do you have plans for putting a pipe in there and covering it over, which will make our field, from that point over to the edge of the woods, usable? I don't know.
I just took the band director's numbers that he
Okay.
wanted. He
Right.
gave me a width
Okay.
and a length dimension that he wanted. And I took the pipe that would give him the dimension he wanted. But that's not to say that that couldn't be done. If the board wants me to finish the ditch with pipe, that could be done to give you more room. But I believe, I've measured it since the excavation's been done, but I believe I took the pipe to a location that would give him the dimensions he wanted to
Well,
work with.
I was only bringing that up because I just noticed it there, and I was like, that'd be really great if you could finish piping up to the dam, which will give you a gigantic open space to do other functions for the band. I mean, it'll be a really nice field when we get it finished. We were under the impression that the hydro seeding was off the table. I've heard that we were going to be responsible for any further development of the field, and that perked our ears up, and I thought, let's go find out about this. So,
I don't, you hear rumors.
yeah, and that's why I came to you.
Dana, You don't need a dozer anymore on that field?
I was hoping the dozer would be there another day.
Well, I start saying it's not level when I start with a tractor.
And really, you don't want to, well, you want to crown.
Well, around, I understand that was one end low.
Right.
Yes.
I was hoping that the dozer would be there another day. I'm not sure what happened. All I know is that Dana told me that the operator brought him the key and said he was done. And before even, first thing I did was call the company to come and get it, because I didn't want to pay another day if he was done and he was no longer going to operate the equipment. And so I had it picked up. I really thought he needed one more day of dozer work, but I think you could finish it with that large tractor that the county has over there. That's
That
not,
was-
would be the fastest way to do it.
Well, that was when we had looked at it, and we thought, you know, if we could get a drag in there and drag it, it won't be perfect, but if we don't seed it this year, it really will be hard to use next year.
All I need is permission
Yeah.
to pay someone to hydro seed it, and that's what we'll do.
Well, let's smooth it out first.
Yes, let's do that.
What we need to, now, everybody realizes that this dozer operator was a volunteer that did a tremendous job and worked for, I don't know how many
Absolutely.
days. Every time I ever went by
Absolutely.
there, the man was, I never saw him get out of the dozer. So, I mean, he used to be commended beyond, I don't know, he just did a great job. How many days of dozer work do you think would still be needed?
I would have liked to see one more day on the dozer and then finished up with the tractor. The ditches could have been finished with the tractor, and of course, he could have helped a little bit with that too.
Well, but back to what Mr. Atkins' original question there was about the ditch and all. Really, what did Mr. Cook want, 110 yards in length? Something like
I
that?
have to look at my notes.
Well, you're
He wanted
saying
a
that-
football field, which is 100 yards,
Well, he wanted it a little bit bigger than.
a little bit bigger. He wanted, I want to think, 310 feet.
We measured it from the corner that's nearest the softball field over to the edge of the woods, and that was 100. Or we drove stakes. We measured and drove stakes. It was 140 feet from one side. We couldn't go any farther over because we ran out, and we couldn't go any closer to the hillside because then that's where you run into your
Well,
the gas pipe.
that's what I'm saying, but I think if the ditch remains there, as long as it's draining properly, he still, or you all would still have more space than initially requested.
Oh, yeah, and we had measured up 160 feet towards the dam from the far end of the field. And we didn't go any farther because we thought, well, if we go any farther, we're going to start going into the sloping part, and we'll work with what we got. And don't get me wrong, we are immensely thankful for what you put time and effort and money into it. And we realize that. It's a whole lot better than what we had. Because last year, around October, we didn't have anything. So even today, we don't really have a usable field. We're practicing in the school's backyard, which is what we did last year. And we marked off the yard we got about a half a football field out of it. And our field ran out onto the blacktop. So, we're dealing with what we have to deal with until we get something that we use. And that's why we came to you all last year, said, this would be really great. It would benefit our program. Our program has to be the second most productive program in that school. We're constantly winning trophies. It's wonderful. I had never been involved with band up until the point that my son got into band. And band and JROTC have made my son a much, much more responsible, better person. So, a little bit of props to JROTC. But band, he enjoys band, and so many of the other kids enjoy band. So it's a worthwhile program. Just this past weekend, we hosted I don't know if you know this, our school hosted a world-class drum corps from Oregon. And they performed at the Drums Across the Tri-State in Charleston. Well, we hosted them Sunday night, and they were practicing. Drum Corps International is the people that sponsor the shows. And they will call Mrs. Cook every year to get us to host a band. There are other schools, even within the state, that will refuse to, host bands. Why? I don't know. If you've never seen a drum corps show, you should go on YouTube, dig any of them up. They're just unbelievable. But we hosted them on Sunday night. We couldn't allow, they were wanting a lighted field. Well, the only lighted field out there is the softball field, which is too small. We were going to try to get them on the soccer field. Well, there's no lights on the soccer field, so they can practice at night. Plus, we were told it couldn't be painted, which we understand, and that's okay, that's not our field. So we split them up, some on the soccer field, some on the baseball field, and we got it done, what we needed. But we apologized for the situation that we were in, left without a field. We said, come back next year, it'd be much better. So that's what, in a nutshell, we're here to thank you for what we have so far, but to let you know that we need a little bit more.
And that's what we intend to do. When you all came to us here, well, not just you, but a couple of years ago, we were concerned about the growth in the band.
Right.
And we all had that as a goal. And that's when we set out and we established the middle school band programs to have a feeder. That was the start. And then when we all met and talked, another issue was we need an assistant band director. Well, we're going to hire, we're going to hire an assistant band director tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
For the middle school?
No.
Or for the high school?
For the high school. Right now, technically, the high school does not
okay.
have an assistant band director.
Well,
Many of us were under the impression that Mr. Cook was, and then we found out he was just
that also.
volunteering his services.
I thought that also.
Well, he wasn't. So Mr. Cook has, all this time, I guess partially because his wife was involved and plus his, concern and interest in band, he was doing all this on his own. We talked about this, and I always thought he was assistant band director and got paid, and then I found he wasn't. So we talked to this Mr. Midkiff and said, we need to rectify this. So back a while back, we posted the job, Mr. Cook applied for it, tonight he's on the agenda to be hired.
Well, that's good. As you know, Mrs. Cook was out most of last year with back surgery.
Exactly.
So who took over Mrs. Cook?
He was doing those things
He was doing.
on his own. Except he was a music teacher at the high school.
Yes.
So he remains a music teacher, but he's also now.
It shows you their dedication.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they can make more money elsewhere, but they do this because they love it.
Well, what I'm trying to show is the things that you all have asked for. The middle school program we've done, the assistant band director we've done, the practice field, we went around where it ought to be here and there and all. And then Mr. Cook suggested a place that really we didn't think was feasible. But when we got to looking closer because it's near the band room and all, hey, this can be done. So we set out to do it, and that's where we are now. I think the board is committed to getting this project finished this year. The particulars of it, we'll have to get with Dana there, maybe with your all's assistance, to do some of those things. What could be done, with the equipment we presently have, or what we might be able to get from somebody else to do a day or two of those are working, if the tractor could be used, and making sure it's all the way it needs to be. And if you can get your guys out there and pick up rocks, if Dana thinks that's a good idea.
Get us
do
some
that.
grass seed in a flat spot, and we'll be all
Well, I
right.
think when we get to the point, they talk about, obviously, I think Dana had talked with Mr. Stone up here about the hydro seeding here a while back, but he told him, kind of an obvious thing, you don't plant grass in the middle of summer, except weather like this maybe, because it's just not going to take. And he suggested, you wait till fall,
Right.
to, anybody who sows grass typically does that. So I think that would be our goal, to do that once the weather permits. Have our field in a, so that gives us a month or so to get it in a, the position we want it to be. Then it could be sown and then let it sit there without being used because, you know, we're gonna have to practice somewhere this year. I
Yes.
remember
Yeah, well-
that we decided that, and we talked that we can't do it this year, it's
Right.
not feasible, but we'll practice somewhere else, down by the river, all these different locations. And then a year from now, you know, or next spring, the thing should be seated nicely and.
Yeah, I really believe that would, you know, be how it was, because you really can't, as you said, sow seed in the middle of the summer because you just burn it up.
Yeah, well-
You know, I understood that it would be, you know, seeded. We, you know, again, that's why I came here is to ask questions. And you've cleared up the fact that it will be hydro seeded, because we were worried that, you know, oh, all right, now we're gonna have to finish it. How are we gonna do this? And that was our big worry. And it's like, so I was drumming up, you know, ways to do it, and now you've.
Well, we can rethink this, maybe.
No, you just, let's just keep it right where it's at. We're, you know, again, thank you very much for your efforts and your time and the money. It won't go unrewarded. You know, you have a successful program. And it will, with better facilities, it will just get better.
When you all perform here is one thing among our fans, but you go all over the state and perform.
Yes.
You were a reflection of all of us.
Yes.
And that's why we want a band. I mean, the first complaints that I got 4 years ago or so was about the few number of people we had in the band and didn't look good and all. So we set out, like I said, to try to rectify that. Mr. Wilkerson over there, he's an ex-band person, so he's really
Good man.
always adamant about this.
Yeah.
But, you know, we understand that when you go out, just like any of our sports teams or anybody else, you reflect on all of us.
Yes, we
Not
do.
only here at the school board, but as Lincoln County. And we want to evoke a positive image out there.
And to back that up a little bit, everywhere we go, and we tell them we're from Lincoln County, and they'll say, oh, we really like you guys. And we get that everywhere. You know, we're friendly with all, you know, everywhere we go. You know, oh, are y'all from Lincoln County? So, yeah, we are. Oh, we love to see y'all shoot. Yeah, so that's why we're asking for the investment of this, and it's not wasted money. It's an investment.
Let me ask Mr. Vicky if he has any comments or ideas or thoughts that we haven't covered.
One of the things that we've also done, it wasn't mentioned, Mr. Priestley was talking about a moment ago, was the mini band camps. That was another thing that we
Oh,
instituted,
yeah.
because we thought that'd be a great
Yeah.
way to grow the program.
Mhm.
Talking to Mr. and Mrs. Cook, it sounds like, you know, that's been a boon to.
And that's another, I talked to you last year about starting the booster organization. We're finishing up the paperwork for that. I thought, well, we'd be a little farther along than we are, but it's a little more interesting than I thought it would be. So, but, you know, we'll get that done, and what that will allow, what we were going to do is, we had a really successful Chili Fest last year. Raised, you know, a considerable amount of money for one day for our band. And we use this money to cover expenses, dry cleaning, you name it, you know, feeding the kid, you know, I believe you all feed the kids. I'm not for sure exactly how that works. But, you know, anything that Mrs. Cook needs, we have to find a way to cover it. We have a large expense coming up for the band trailer. We have a band trailer, but I believe that the axles on the band trailer need to be replaced with ones that there are no brakes on the trailer. And we want to replace the brakes, or the axles on the trailer, with axles that have brakes, which will allow whoever's towing our truck or our trailer, and they tow because they like doing it. And it's much safer for them. You can get the details from Mr. Cook about that. But that was just, we're going to have to figure out how to cover that expense. And if you all, you know, have any extra money that you want to donate towards that cost,
Well, I think that booster
we can
club,
help you out.
I think you could have a lot of chili fest and hot dogs.
You come over there, let me tell you, I was the cook last year. I was grilling those hot dogs, and we were selling those things as fast as I could get them off the grill. Kid you not. So, and we're trying to do things like that to raise more money, to cover expenses that we have, so that we don't have to come to you and say, we need.
I know Mr. Baker and I had a conversation before the board meeting about booster clubs. You know, the board will do, you know, we will contribute wherever we can, but our, you know, we have limits too.
Yeah.
That all clubs and sports teams, everything, they need to have booster clubs. And, you know, most of them do, and that's what we talked about last year.
You did.
So, you know, between the two of us, we can work cooperatively. and
Oh,
get this
yes,
done.
and that's, like I said, I actually sat down with Mr. Snyder today and we talked about 45 minutes about things that we wanted to do, you know, for the band. And very receptive, so it went very nice. And, you know, my intention tonight was just to come here and thank you and bring up stuff on what the situation was. And you've cleared up some issues that you know, there were just alarm bells going off in our heads, you know, this is a problem.
Let me see if any of the other board members have any comments or questions. Do you want any?
I have a question. Dana, if we do get a dozer in there for a couple more days, if we added pipe where that ditch is now, would it be expensive to do that? Because it would make it look a lot nicer if we
Yes,
could
it
do
would.
it.
You could probably, I wouldn't want to go with smaller pipe, because we're not sure how much water's going to come off that hillside, which is why we wanted 18 inch. I'm going to estimate another $1,500 in pipe to get it over to the dam, to where
But
the
it would
outlet
be,
comes in.
I mean, we could, like you
Oh,
said, we
it would
could
make
use
a
it for
world of
other
difference.
things.
I would think that you'd want to make some of it perforated with some rock on it to allow some water coming off the hillside, rather than just, you know, you've not just got water coming off the dam. You've got water coming from that hillside too, so.
But if eventually we were going to even think about doing that, one time we have a dozer in there, and before we seed it,
Yes.
that it would be really feasible to go ahead and do that, I think. And two, what do you use to drag with, to drag it? We used to use old box springs.
There you go.
Then we picked up rocks.
They make better ones, yeah, I'm sure that they make really nice ones with, you know,
I
metal
think they've got
teeth.
something at the high school.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To do
there's a
that.
couple ice drags of the baseballs on.
Good deal.
Anything else, Jim?
No.
Rowdy?
No.
Gentlemen?
Well, I agree with Carol. We're too close home now to start.
Exactly,
cutting
exactly.
And I just don't think it'd take too long with the tractor to get, we need a dozer in there for a day or two.
Well, then that was my concern, I wanted to get this out in the open. I was like, you know, if we let this thing go over, you know, the winter, then it's, you know, it's gonna be, we're gonna have to tear it all up anyway. Let's fix it now, smooth it out, put grass on it, and it will be beautiful.
Unless I'm 100% banned, been there, done that, I'm for you.
I
Whatever
appreciate
you
your
do.
help.
If you need somebody to fill in, somebody's sick.
Hey, no, you show up at Chili Fest, and I'll put you behind the counter, passing out hot dogs.
No, we don't want him out
And you
there
can't beat stuff like
tooting the
that.
horn
I
or
mean,
something.
come election time, you're gonna be everybody's best friend.
Bert, did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
I noticed you mentioned something about a boosters club. Are you trying to set this up outside of the school system?
Yes, it will be.
Okay. Just for information purposes, most all booster clubs coming into the school system now, there's a couple benefits of that. It's audited, there's documentation of all the money coming in, all the money coming out. It's audited every year. And the
That's
other
right.
thing is, if your booster club is run through the school system, you will be covered under our liability insurance.
I probably need to talk to you then.
Okay, now if you're outside on your own,
Yeah.
you guys have no liability
Right.
coverage.
Well, so you're covering points that I had questions about, but I wasn't, you know.
So it's our recommendation that everybody come through the school system, and it protects your boosters.
Well, if we can set up a time if you have.
Why don't
time
you all
to
do
see
that,
about
you all
it.
can talk
You just need
about
to go
this.
see Ms.
Yeah.
Rhonda Cummings at the high school.
Ron, okay.
Okay.
I'm all about that.
Okay. Anything else, anybody, Jeff, anything? Okay, here's what I think what I'm hearing here is that we'd like Dana to go and make preparations to put in the pipe. Doze whatever we have to do, smooth it down, the drain to make it level or whatever we're talking about here. And get the pipe in there. If you want to utilize some of the band people to help remove rocks during the dragging process,
You let me know.
get Russ know, and he'll take care of that. After it's all completed, when it's feasible, weather-wise, we'll seed the thing, and then look at the grass
And we'll
growth.
name the field after you guys.
We'll-
That would be hard.
We'll figure out something.
We better wait and see on that one.
Oh, it was a nice pitch, anyway. So,
Okay,
but
I think we're all on the same
We
page.
appreciate your time and effort, and like I said before, it's an investment. You know, I could be a pig about it and say, well, this is going to be a band-only field, and maybe I should. But truthfully, it'll be a nice area that, when the band's not using it, that, you know, anyone could use.
It probably will
Any-
be a
any
band only.
club-
You better run that
She's
past
gonna
Mrs.
get-
Cook.
Well, that's true. See, that's why I'm talking a little under my breath. See, I don't want to promise away something, you know, they may not like it.
Okay.
But you understand, it's,
I think we're on the same
Good
page
deal.
here. And if you'll converse it, you know, with Bertie or ever how you all want to do it, for setting up your booster club, because
Yes.
the advantages seem to me like far outweigh
Oh,
anything
yeah.
else. And then maybe get with Dana, or Dana can get in touch with you as far as utilizing any of your members. to
oh yeah,
assist you.
I can give him my number, or he can get a hold of Mrs. Cook. She has my number.
We can do it through Miss Cook then, Dana, okay?
That's
Okay.
no
All right.
problem. Anything that you guys need, you let us know, and we'll figure out a way to do it.
Okay. We appreciate it.
Appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Look forward to it.
We do too.
Tell us when you're going to cook the chilies.
It'll be the
September
23rd.
23rd? No,
23rd?
August 23rd.
August, yeah.
August 23rd.
All right, great.
We'll be cooking hot dogs and serving chili. And maybe funnel cakes if I can figure out how to do it.
But do you put that on Channel 39 so everybody can see it? Advertise
So
it?
we'll know.
The
Television station?
for advertising that we're cooking at Chili Fest,
So we'll know when to
And-
show up.
I will figure out how to do that.
Well, you go
Boy,
to
y'all
Armstrong.
do
You can go to Armstrong.
Okay?
Yeah.
Then the school site also, the school.
Yeah.
but-
Oh, yeah. So, and that's,
Good.
we made good money last year, and we want to make it better this year, which will just help us out tremendously.
Okay.
Thank you all for your attention and everything that you've done so far. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Okay, we're ready now. Let's go on to the next section of the agenda, the administrative section. Can I have a motion, please? Ms. Curry? Mr. Wilkerson, second. Mr. Mickey.
All right. Item A, out-of-county student transfers for the 2014-15 school year. And I'd like to note, these are previous out-of-county transfers from last year. These are not
I thought,
new.
man, where'd all these kids come from?
And these are not situations that cause overages or need to hire additional teachers. We have some new requests that we're holding. We're going to keep those until school begins, the students are back, so that we can take a look at our numbers to make sure that we're not going to be in a situation where we're going to be over. Item B, an agreement with Glade Springs Resort to provide accommodations for professional development session for Mr. Jonah sitting back there and his staff, according to terms of the agreement. That's August 10th through the 13th, the dates of the retreat. And it's paid for, funded through the school improvement grant. Item C is an agreement with Chief Logan Resort to provide accommodations for the Lincoln County Administrative Professional Development Training or Leadership Academy, according to the terms of the agreement. This Leadership Institute is going to begin August the 3rd, run through the 5th. I'd like to invite you all to come if you want to on August the 3rd. That evening we'll have a cookout. And we have a presenter that's going to be there later that evening. You know, if you have time, you want to stop by, you're welcome to attend on August the 4th or 5th as well. If you'd like to stop in, we've got a full agenda. Our board attorney, Leslie Tyree, is going to be there talking about policy 505310, so hiring practices, evaluation piece. Everyone's going to get a healthy review of what that looks like because of all the changes. So, item D is the contract with Keith Matheny. He's a motivational / inspirational speaker who's going to be at this professional development session to help us kick it off. And he'll also be with us during the cookout as he will be conversing, talking to our administrators. Item E, there's an omission here. I need you to make a change. Just right after where it says co-educators.
Are we on which number, or letter?
E.
Letter E, okay.
Yeah, sorry, I probably jumped over. Item E. After co-educators, we need to add the words, and one preschool special needs aide. So this will read a purchase of service contract with Southwestern Community Action Council Incorporated to provide salaries for 4 teacher assistants / co-educators and 1 preschool special needs aide at designated schools for the 2014-15 school year, according to the terms of the contract, at a cost of $126,715.12. And this figure, this amount actually indicates an increase of 2% over what we paid last year because of salary increases. Item F is a memorandum of understanding to provide tuition reimbursement to speech language pathologist Anne Marie Serrano according to the terms of the memorandum, and that's funded through a state grant. Item G is the approval of non-career technical education concentrations at Lincoln County High School. And this is a new requirement for the West Virginia Department of Education that the board does this each year. These are concentrations or areas that our students at Lincoln County High School could take while they're over there during 4 years. These are areas of interest. They don't lead to certifications or anything of that nature, but just some electives that they could take that they'd be interested in that would help get them to graduation. And as we add additional concentrations, and this is a working document, and we'll be adding some new ones, I will be bringing those, or we'll bring those to you for your approval.
Mike, is it possible that there are students that are in them, that, what the proper terminology is, that major in some of these areas?
These are not, it could be, no, that's true, it could be.
But
Yes.
this is for those that aren't, that are taking electives, right? Okay.
That's correct. Let's see, item H, out-of-state travel for the following employees. Jerry Cummings to Lima, Ohio, July 23rd through the 25th, 2014, to attend automotive instructor update seminar. There's no funds necessary for this activity. It's actually paid for through the University of Northwestern Ohio. Dallas Plumbing to Richmond, Virginia, August 24th through 28th, 2014, to attend the annual JROTC instructor training. All expenses funded by the U.S. Army. Item I, school volunteers who on occasion may also serve as bus chaperones or provide transportations for students to and from athletic events, academic competitions, or school outings, who have provided proof of private vehicle liability insurance and have completed volunteer orientation.
Okay. Any questions for anybody? On this, am I understanding this correctly, Jeff, on item E, the Southwestern Community Activity here, is this just out of our general funds, or where that comes from, or just out of general?
There's a small portion of it, about 19,000 that comes out of federal preschool money, but most of it comes out of Medicaid.
Okay, any other questions? All right. If not, then we have a motion second. All those in favor of this, all yes?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go to finance then. Can we have a motion? Carol made the motion. Rowdy seconded it. Okay, Bertie.
Okay, item A, scheduled invoices totaling $255,863.46. Invoices are available for public inspection in the county office. Item B, county pension plan for the following retired employees under option A plan, effective July the 1st of 2014, funded through the excess levy. And of course, we have these are our new retirees who, at their first go around, they're making the choice of whether they want the check or they want the dental vision plan. So as you can see, all 3 of those folks have chose to give up their check and pick up the dental vision plan. And we're gonna note it on the board agenda, so if they ever want to pick their check back up, we know what to go back and pay those folks.
All right, any finance questions? Okay, John, is that, call for a question, all, is that an all yes? Yes. All yes on the finance. Okay, we got personnel, motion please.
Second.
Mr. Curry and Mr. Wilkerson.
Okay, item A is the employment of short, long substitute professional personnel. Item B is the employment of professional personnel.